From the city of brotherly love, this is Shark Bite Biz with David Strausser.
You just arrived to the newest episode of Shark Bite Biz. I'm your glamorous host, David Strausser, and this is your place to learn how to grow a business during complete global chaos. Today, we're going to chat about entrepreneurship. First, though, remember, please download the Shark Bite Biz app exclusively if you're using an Android device on the Google Play Store. That's the single place you can get every audio, every video, every segment, every clip of this very show right there inside of the app. Plus, you can buy our fabulous coffee brand. Yes, Dead House Coffee. You can buy it right there in the app just by clicking the menu button and hitting coffee store. Or you can do it the old school way and just go to deadhousecoffee.com, where you're going to get the freshest coffee. Okay, that's coffee that is roasted, sealed, and shipped within a 24-hour period to your doorstep. Okay, you can go there, get that coffee. If you use code SHARK, you're going to save 20%. We're going to get all the proceeds to continue making this the show the biggest and best we possibly can. Now, let's get back to today's show. We've got an awesome episode scheduled for today. And, you know, I guess we talk about so many things. It's one of those very fluid conversations that we have that it's hard to kind of sum it up in a few words. And I really think that the best way to sum it up is just flat out making yourself better. This is an episode about growth. Basically, it's about making you a better business owner, growing your business, being a better person, growing as a person, and building your business better. Basically, growing your business. Like I said, it's all about growth. So, who do we have today? None other than Christine Hansen. Christine Hansen is an award-winning business coach and consultant running a boutique service for online entrepreneurs, creatives, and coaches who want to embrace their inner lazy, profit like a pro, and add philanthropist to their list of credentials without ever undercharging or feeling like they have to be anyone but themselves again. She combines smart strategy and deep soul work so that you can grow and scale a business you love. With 10 plus years as a sought after TEDx France and keynote speaker, Christine is a contributor for Entrepreneur, and her work is featured in Forbes, Business Insider, National Geographic, and more. So, hey, without further delay, let's bring Christine right on in here.
Personal growth.
Christine, welcome to Shark Bite Biz. You, my friend, you just became Shark Bait.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. How are you doing?
Oh, doing wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're here on this show, and we have a tradition. Very first question we ask everybody, doesn't matter who you are, rock star, CEO, business coach, everybody gets asked the same exact question. Okay, tell us where are you from, where you've been, what are you doing, how'd you get there? Basically, in a nutshell, tell us what makes Christine Hansen Christine Hansen.
That nutshell is like, it's a big nutshell. So it's a little bit more complex, but I am from Luxembourg, have grown up in Luxembourg. I was born in Colombia, South America, but was adopted when I was 4 months old. So I have the Latina blood in my veins, but the very European academic upbringing in my psychology. Yes, I went to university in the UK, studied English literature, did my master's and my bachelor and my master's in the UK. And I was a teacher for 10 years. Over here in Luxembourg. And and then I had my daughter.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say there with the accent, that is something that always fascinates me when you have somebody like with you that you're from Colombia and you're over in Luxembourg, and then you pick up the English accent. So now instead of what, like, my wife is Peruvian, so her English, you hear a big Latina English
Yeah. Well,
accent.
I mean, I was a baby when I came to Luxembourg, so I don't know. Honest, my Spanish is what I learned in high school.
From your parents, though, I would have imagined.
Well, no, my adoptive parents are Luxembourgish, right? So I grew up speaking Luxembourgish.
Okay.
So
that makes more sense there for me. But still,
Yeah.
I mean, it's always amazing. It's always been one of those weird things that just fascinates me about people in general. But anyways, you were saying about your daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm someone who's not a typical kids person. But then, everything was living the average life, let's put it that way, like having a stable job, good salary, blah, blah, blah. My daughter, and because I'm not too kid friendly, I don't want to say I'm horrible towards them, it's just not my passion. One of my worries was that I wouldn't be sleeping because everyone around me with kids was not getting any sleep. So I downloaded a program.
That's like one of the big stereotypes about parenthood. Oh, you're never going to sleep again. And it's true. Every Saturday and Sunday, my kids wake up at 6 a.m. on the dot. And it's like, why don't you do this Monday through Friday when there's school?
I know. It's because of the cartoons, I can tell. But yeah, so for me, that was a real stressor because I wanted to go back to work immediately. My then husband and I had made it clear he wanted to stay and go part-time. I wanted to go back full-time. And so I downloaded a program to help newborns even sleep as quickly as possible on their own. And it worked really well. And then around 6 months later, I got what I now know is a very good email with a sales page where that program was saying they were picking people to become certified baby sleep consultants. And here in Europe, baby sleep consultants are not a thing. And especially in my country here in Luxembourg, it's not a thing. People don't know what it is. It's not in our culture. It doesn't exist really. It's very rare. So
I've never heard of it either. I
no, it's quite popular
existed
in the US. So you basically have someone who's coming to help you teach your baby how to sleep.
Okay.
I read that sales page and it was very well written and it drew that picture of becoming an entrepreneur. Basically, they described what the day could be like. They crunched the numbers for you, how much money you could make. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. And I never considered myself an entrepreneur. And funny because we talked about languages before. In Luxembourgish, we don't actually entrepreneur. We have the word, it's French actually, but we have a different meaning linked to it. In Luxembourg, an entrepreneur is someone who does construction, big construction like highways or lots of buildings. It's not necessarily someone who creates businesses or like an Elon Musk, that's not like, we don't think about that when we say entrepreneur. So I literally, even though I studied English literature, Shakespeare didn't really talk about entrepreneur. I didn't know really what it was. And I didn't know that it was what I wanted to do. But that sales page got me. So I decided.
And you're in Luxembourg too. I mean, first, I just gotta say, you're the first person I've ever met from Luxembourg.
Well, we aren't a lot of people, so it's a rare commodity.
Can you just do what? Because I did tell you that I would interrupt you if there's an acronym, and I would imagine we've had the president of Liberland on this show. So, countries having people like that is nothing new. But explain to people where Luxembourg is. I personally know, but you live there. I want to hear from you.
So it's a small country in the middle of Europe. It's actually a grand duchy. So we have a dynasty over here. We have a grand duke. But it doesn't really have like any true active powers. That's our government, and we have a prime minister and a whole cabinet. And it's between Belgium, Germany, and France. And it's also very close to the Netherlands. So and it's tiny. Like it takes you an hour and a half to drive from north to south. So it's really small.
It's basically almost like a city state, almost like, for example, like if you were to look at it compared to Vatican,
yes and no.
How much more bigger?
So it's often compared to the Vatican or Monaco. It is a little bit different though, because those are usually just one big city. Whereas here we do have a capital, but we still have other small, like obviously very small cities and villages around it. So it's a little bit different. So we would call that still tiny.
In the States, we would probably call that more like a county. That's what we would
probably
call a
yes,
county.
and even it's probably like a third or a fifth of a county. Like it's really small.
Right.
But
we have small counties out here too.
Yes, true.
But
true.
You know, Rhode Island's a pretty small state.
It's probably that big. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I would have
Wow. Yeah. But basically, I mean, Luxembourg, I've always kind of found fascinating myself personally because of the fact that it is like a county-sized country that is, you know, amongst all these major European powers, and it sits like right in the middle of all of them, and yet it has remained, you know, essentially independent. So I've always found that awesome. Traveling to Luxembourg is on my bucket list. So,
well, it was bigger, right? Like historically, Luxembourg was also called the Gibraltar of the North because it was a very, very important military fortress. So it was really because of its situation, you know, between Germany and France and so forth, and the Netherlands. It used to be really big, and then it was dismantled because it was considered to be quite, you know, to giving too much power to whatever force was reigning at the time. So it was German, French, it was Belgium, and we still have a Luxembourg province in Belgium. And we are the House of Nassau. So our royal family is still connected to the Dutch family mainly, but not only. So it's all connected. But what is, it used to be, it's one of the founding members of the EU because you had Benelux first. So Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, those three first. And from there, you then had the European Union develop it.
Okay, yep.
And we still have the European courts here in Luxembourg and the European institutions.
Right.
So it's always been quite entrepreneurial if you think about it because of its size. It used to be big in banking. Now, then it was the steel industry. Now, one of our main assets is space. We're quite big in innovation in space. We're one of the first countries ever to already have a legal system for space. It's very strange.
Right. Hold on. A legal system for space.
Yes. So there's already laws about space, who owns what and what will happen in certain events. And most of them are actually, you know, being drawn up here. So it's always been a little bit thinking outside of the box because obviously we don't have steel is not too big of an industry anymore over here. So we have to think about, you know, what else can we do? So it's always been quite innovative. And so we have our own language, which is Luxembourgish, but we learn writing and reading in German and French. So everyone living here knows at least 3 languages. And if you go to traditional high school, you also learn English and then often also either Spanish or Italian. So because nobody speaks our language, right?
Right. This might sound dumb coming from me. I don't know how to come across, but you know, one thing is that my whole life, so I lived in Mexico for 15 years. I also lived down in Peru as well for about a year. And basically, you know, I've learned Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish, 100%. In fact, in my household, we speak Spanish here all day, every day, the whole household, because I mean, the kids learn English perfectly from friends in their schools. You know, sometimes I'll talk to the kids in English too, but we also do a lot of Spanish to keep the practice, keep the culture in the house, to, you know, to keep it as a bicultural house. You know, we don't want to lose we don't want our kids to lose their, well, I do have one older son that's Mexican, half Mexican, but then the younger ones are Peruvian. So we don't want them to lose their heritage, and we try to keep that in the family as much as we can. Throughout my whole life, I've always met Latinos that they, can speak English and Spanish, and it's like it's cool. Yeah, I've met a million people like that, no big deal. But for whatever reason, whatever they see a white guy speaking Spanish, they're like, huh, you speak Spanish? It's like, I'm like, well, yeah, you speak English. I mean, if you can speak English, why can't I speak Spanish? I don't know why, but I always get that weird reaction from Latinos when I'm down in a place, like even up here in the States, like they just don't expect it. I don't get it. I have no idea why. Language is just one of those funny things. And then you look at a country. So to bring my point full circle, is then you look at a country like Luxembourg, where you're like, everybody here speaks 2, 3, 4 languages. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm coming from when I'm hearing that, just the difference in, I guess, point of view and perception, depending of what your biases are.
Totally. I mean, it's out of necessity, of course, because first of all, nobody speaks our language and there's just very few of us. And then also the population of Luxembourg is like 700,000, the whole country. It swells to double the size every day from people from France, Belgium, and Germany coming over to work here. So they don't speak Luxembourgish either. So when we go,
well, they're trying to do all the space stuff, right?
You just have to speak another language. Like wherever you go, people won't be speaking Luxembourgish. And then obviously in the big companies, English is the most current language being spoken. So because we have that international community and Luxembourg is very cosmopolitan, I feel really privileged, because it's given me an upbringing that's very open-minded. And just
a lot of different cultural influences.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have a different point of view of the world that way, which I'm feeling very blessed, to be living here, to having grown up here, and also to have my daughter grow up here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can 100%, relate with that experience, like what you're talking about, just that feeling. I mean, I think my wife feels the same way, essentially, because we got over to the U.S. with like her visas being approved, I think just in the nick of time. Even though she was Peruvian, we were living back in Mexico on the border with San Diego, and her visa got approved, and we were living in San Diego for about 2 weeks before our daughter was born, 3 months prematurely. So, I mean, that's how razor thin it was from getting over here. So it was, or else it would have been okay. It just would have been more paperwork, and I don't like paperwork. But anyways, so you ended up, getting those pamphlets, and it was teaching you, like it had an argument laid out there as far as an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, it was. I loved the idea. And then I decided to go for it, and I did. And I really quickly discovered that I loved digital marketing. And I don't remember why. I think I was probably trying to build my first website. And I got onto Skillshare, and I saw this free class with Seth Godin. And it was one of his staple classes about marketing. I think he had written the Prep Book How at the time. And I loved everything he had to say. It made so much sense. And I loved all the business components to my first company, which was then Sleep Like a Baby, being a baby sleep consultant. Turns out, though, I really don't like babies apart from my own. So after a year, I was like, I need to get out of this. But I realized when I talked to people about what I was doing, that sleep was a very, very hot topic. You can talk about it in all kinds of different areas. And it was 2015, 2016. which is when Arianna Huffington, who was still the CEO of the Huffington Post at the time, was writing The Sleep Revolution. And she had a massive PR tour about the sleep revolution. But obviously, not every journalist was able to interview her. But when Googling for a sleep expert, because I did a good job with my website, they found me. So I got a lot of media exposure very, very quickly. And
I have an Arianna Huffington book right over. I forget where it's at, but she actually autographed it. It might maybe it's the book that you told. I never read it.
It's
to
like
be honest.
dark blue, and she's on a bed, sitting on top of a bed. It's a very good book. I really, really enjoyed it. It gave me lots to work with. But I discovered
I might actually have it though, because she sent me an autographed copy of the book because they were going to put me in. It was right after she stepped down from being CEO of Huffington Post. And she was basically like, hey, David, make sure you get your articles published, because she really liked the article that I wrote. And then like the new people that she put in charge actually didn't publish, and she felt bad because she was like, yes, I was going to publish you, David. So she sent me the autographed book instead. So it still was pretty cool. Yeah, it was like one of the sweetest things, because it's like you didn't have to do that. But it was pretty cool.
I figured out though that there wasn't anything in sleep that it was much more complex than what I did in the beginning. And so it took me another year and a half and lots of diplomas to really get my own method, which is now the Sleep Like a Boss method, which is very holistic with lab testing, stress resilience, and all of it. And then I realized, I really enjoy building the business more than necessarily working with Hal. So I franchised the business out, got a team all over the world working with clients. And
I'm starting. Hold on. I'm starting to notice a trend here.
Yeah. You need to do something to figure out what you like doing and what you don't like doing. And I think a big lesson learned is as well, you need to give yourself permission to pivot, when you realize it's not about my pride here, or you need to finish what you started, when this is not like when you have an eye roll each time you need to work. That's not what I wanted to do.
Sounds like you like the challenge of building things, but then it's kind of like, I'll build this, but then I just want to offload it. Like, here you go, take it. And then I want to build something else that's new and creative and innovative. And that's what you do?
That's what I do. I'm a generator by human design. So now I get to do it with my clients, So I franchised it off. Now we have a new CEO for Sleep Like a Boss. And I decided to really focus on what I love doing, which is building businesses and digital marketing. So I love the online business world. And I love working with people who know what they want to do. They have an inkling, but they don't really know how to get there. And for them, the online world is super scary, in terms of all of this, like marketing, the tech, the whole, how do I even live? How do I do my finances? All of it. And so I do have people in different stages. I have them either to get started, like to be born on the internet, but I also love people who are a little bit further, who might have a great business running on autopilot, but they are a little bit like me, where they're like, actually, it's not fulfilling anymore. So that's where we go a little bit more in the coaching section, or my business trippers, which is basically we travel amongst entrepreneurs. So it's
so crazy how like technology, stuff like that, how it's evolved, you know what I mean? Just because, like, for example, like you're talking like the digital marketing and stuff like that. Look at Hootsuite, for example. Okay.
All of it. It's nuts. I always talk about internet land. 5 years is like eons of time online.
But even like over the last 3 years, look at how much the price has increased in Hootsuite over the last 3 years of what it was. And I could be speaking a little bit wrong here. Maybe it's more like 5 years, but I know since the last time I looked at Hootsuite, because I used to, when I was a sales rep for Vision 33, the same company I work for right now, but I was a sales rep. I wasn't the managing executive for the Northeast like I am now. When I was Hootsuite, it was like, hey, I'm gonna pay this $15 a month, manage all of my social medias. Now I think their entry level price was like 35 or $50 a month or something like. I'm like, holy cow, this game has changed since then. It's
nuts. I mean, I just
ever
got an
evolving.
email. Yes, I mean, we are in March 2022 now. And I just received an email from MailerLite, which is like an email software provider similar to MailChimp with ActiveCampaign. And until now, their classic plan has always been that it's free up to 1,000 subscribers. And they have a really robust system. They're changing things now. And their new plan is actually a lot pricier. So it's been interesting because I went to see their blog post in their newsletter where they were presenting this new system. And the comments were actually, people were not excited about it because they were like, this was one of the platforms that had still kind of the old school pricing and things. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's also the market has become so much more saturated. I mean, and we have so many people who
that was an email list application you were talking about, right?
Yes, exactly. So an email software
We've had
provider.
a lot of people on here as of late. I don't know why or what the trend is, but everybody is email marketing, email marketing, email marketing. You know, your reach is only as powerful as your email list. You need to build the email list. What do you say about that?
You know, yes and no. In terms of Sleep Like a Boss it still is very successful, but our email list has always been tiny because people didn't opt in. Like they would come to the website, they would immediately book that call, and they would never read a single newsletter. I still sell without newsletters similarly. Last year, I invested more than 20K into copywriters who wrote my newsletters because I hate writing. I really don't like it. And I'm really big into don't do what you don't like doing. So they were very, very good. And yet my email list didn't convert at all. So after a year, having all the data come in, I was like, I'm not going to spend more money on this. This doesn't make sense. Like if it's not working, it's not working. So I'm not giving it up. I still have like everything in place because email addresses are still, strong. But I'm doing what I like doing. And I like audio, I like video. So actually I have audio love notes now. Like I have my regular blog and podcast, but I leave little messages. So every 2 weeks, I have a private feed that you can't find unless you've subscribed through my website to it, where I just leave.
That sounds intriguing. I should do that.
It's for me, it's much easier because I just sit down, I record it, I upload it, and it's done. And everyone who subscribes gets a quick message and just, like the.
Well, I wouldn't do love notes. I would call it Shark Bites.
Yes, exactly. Whatever your jam is, whatever your vibe is, whatever your brand is, whatever your voice is. But to me, it's more me. And I've really learned over the years that, yes, there are best practices, but in the end, you really have to figure out what works for you. Like have best practices in place, obviously. But instead of sticking to something that has worked for everyone else, quote unquote, versus maybe who shouts the loudest, you really stick rather to what you enjoy doing, what is in your zone of genius.
Right. No, I totally agree. I mean, my question, I guess, would be, whereas you haven't personally had that big of a conversion rate, do you think that, obviously your list is good, meaning that they're valid contacts, they're people that could be of value to you and your organization in some form or shape or whatever? Could it just be that the format or whatever, something in there that you're just doing that's just not optimized to get the message across to hit these people? I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box. I want to hear what your opinion is with that.
It's always possible, I guess. But that's when I'm taking professionals in, that's why I worked with copywriters who are conversion specialists, in terms of, because I don't believe that you have to be great at everything. And I know that writing is not my forte. I like speaking, and even my book is taken from a podcast that I had, and it's written in the way that I speak. And I do that on purpose. Like, some people, that drives them nuts. They prefer having
I'm enchanted by your speaking. Your accent is amazing.
But you can't hear the accent in the book.
Yeah.
I am recording it, though. It will be available as an audiobook.
I tell you what, when I read the book, I am going to read it with your accent in my mind.
Yes. Well, I'm in the process of recording it, and it's going to be like an audiobook course hybrid, because I'm going to add some things and comment on my own writing. But
are you going to put it on like Audible?
Yes, it's going to be available, but we're just producing it now, and I'm being very lazy, and so it's taking its sweet time.
I'll tell you what, the Audible book of it, have you heard of the author Jeffrey Gitomer? He's a little bit old school, but he's for sales, business development. And he has some really good books that I like personally, because I feel that like they align with me and my style. And one of them is called The Little Red Book of Selling. Another one is called The Sales Bible. And he's little, like he'll have the little yellow book, little green book, that's his stick. But The Little Red Book of Selling is somewhere, it was almost like it was a message being telegraphed to me, because I was seeing this book everywhere.
Right.
And then finally, I'm like, okay, I give in. I'm going to buy it. And I bought the book, but then I noticed once I bought it on Amazon, it's like, hey, since you bought the book, you can also get it for like $3 more to an Audible if you want. And I listened to the book while I was reading it, and it's actually written by the author. Jeffrey Gitomer himself is reading it. And instead, it gives that vibe, exactly what you're talking about, which instead of like having a professional reader read the book and not be you, it's him reading it with his accent, with his tone, with his personality, so that it directly conveys with the extras, like you're saying, what point he's trying to get across. Yeah. And no matter how good of a writer you are, I mean, like, I have HBR, Harvard Business Review right here in front of me. You just can't get that reading, the book or a magazine as you can with that audio when you have it done by the author with that intent. I think that's a powerful move on your part.
Yeah. And I really feel that marketing wise, let's talk about strategy for a second. It's audio is one of the most immersive experiences that you can create, and it's creating trust fairly quickly as well. Video too, but not everyone wants to sit in front of a screen. So audio is really that. I really feel if you like to listen to someone, you will most likely also be deciding very quickly if you ever want to have something in real life to do with them, work with them, or purchase something from them. If I don't like someone's voice, if I don't like the way they talk, there is no way I'm ever going to go further in that relationship. I think it's just one of these things.
If you find somebody annoying, and I've had this,
you do,
to where it's like, oh my God, I can't stand that guy's voice. And it's the same thing. I tell my sales reps, one of the things that I coach them on is, guys, and I say guys because I do have 3 sales reps, and all 3 of them are guys. And it's weird because I have age group literally like a 20, 50, and near, mid 60s-ish, like all kind of spread out through different generations. But with them, I'm talking to them and I'm like, guys, remember, you can't sell everybody. Just for whatever reason, somebody eventually isn't going to like you. And it's going to happen once, it's going to happen twice, it may happen even 3 times a year. Now, if it happens like every deal cycle, we've got to have some conversations. But if it's happening, once, twice, three times a year, those rare occasions with all the people you talk to, that's okay. Flip them over to me. You'll still get your credit, I'll get the deal closed. I can't sell everybody. They're like, we just sold a customer where they're like, that David guy, oh my God, he wouldn't shut up. He just kept talking and talking and talking. And I'm like, they kept asking me these detailed questions and wanting to know all these like I was giving them what they wanted. And then afterwards, they're complaining about it to the sales rep, but they love the sales rep. So it's like, fine, good cop, bad cop, that's how we work. But sometimes that's got to be reversed. Usually it is reversed to where I'm the person that, I'll be in camp, but every now and then it's like, okay, I'm the bad cop. They hate me. So, Chris, you go be the good cop. So that's kind of what my strategy is there.
I agree. And, most of the time you still have to remember we're humans. We connect or we don't. And even if you are, some of my clients, they're not entrepreneurs, or they're not entrepreneurs, but they're not like service providers. So I have artists, who want to embark on having their first exhibition. Even they're selling your paintings where you'd think that is totally objective. People who connect with the artists are also more likely to connect to the paintings that they're doing, so it's always, no matter how you approach in the end selling, I think the connection piece, you can't fake that, and you shouldn't, or you really, really shouldn't. And it's totally fine that, because we don't like everyone. I like to switch it around when I have a client who's maybe a little bit self-conscious, or, when you get your first bad review and it's just like,
I'm self-conscious. Like I told you, I had to cover my face with your notes. So I don't even look at myself during the interview.
Exactly. So it's like, we don't like everyone. Like we've been like, not my cup of tea. Like, nice to meet you, but bye-bye. And why would you be different towards others? It's just, it's normal. And I like it as a filter, because I don't want to work with someone who doesn't like me. What's the point? I don't want to work with someone who doesn't get my jokes. That's just really awkward. So,
and that's a good point, because for many years I ended up working on my own for that very reason, because like I go into a job interview, and I was pretty successful as an independent consultant up until I took my position with Vision 33. And I think this is kind of why they liked me. But, I was kind of like, yeah, I understand you guys are interviewing me, but I'm interviewing you. I got a good thing going here. And, some companies, like, they found that like arrogant. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to lose everything that I have, going, that I've built for myself, or some place that I might not like. And in fact, when I did give out my resume and stuff like that, I have this flashy infographic. That's my cover letter. And it's like me with a guitar, showing my timelines and all my stats and all this amazing stuff. And then it goes into a very non-traditional resume. So it's eye attention. It's eye grabbing. It's drawn attention, and people are going to be like, no, too flashy. Or they're going to be like, actually, let's give this guy a call. Let's see what he brings to the table. Let's see if he lives up to this, Exactly. And that's kind of, that's what I look for, because to me, it's a process of elimination. If you don't like the picture of me with the guitar, guess what? Then you're probably not going to like me wearing a sequin skull shirt with the suit that I'm wearing. Okay. And that's where I kind of draw the line. It makes sense, right? Not totally crazy.
It's what I teach my clients all the time. It's not our job even to find clients. It's our job to show up, to be strategic about we show up maybe, but that's it. The clients are out there. Like, everyone has needs. The world is a big place, and online you're reaching everyone. So it's not our job to find them and to be desperate. It's exactly, it's the other way around. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. And I actually see a lot of people who do this mistake in a way that they assume they know what others want. And then they go down a completely wrong track. And it's the only thing you really know for sure.
Is the worst thing that you can possibly do, because oftentimes you are wrong. Now, there's sometimes we're assuming, if done properly and framed correctly, it can be good, because it's like, maybe we underbid this slightly. So it's like, okay, well, let's just assume that they're going to do their own data transfer.
Exactly. And it's also working with certain people. And then you do start working with those profiles and you discover, actually, I don't like that kind of profile. And then you've built everything towards it. So I'm always saying the only thing that you know for sure is yourself and the products that you create or the services that you create. That's the only thing you know for sure. So go with that. Go with what you like and what you don't like. And that is a perfect elimination process. That's all you have to do.
So I have one final question I want to ask you before we get all your information. Okay. And that is, one of the points I have, which is that you help people bust past their blind spots. How do you help people? What's the key to helping people identify those blind spots?
I know it's one of the skills that I think I inherently have as a person. And it's also that I honed through coaching skills, right? So when I work with someone, by really listening and looking, I can pinpoint it. It's just like you're telling me this. let me just recheck on this little thing. Is that actually you, or is it someone else's belief? And it's most of the time it has to do with mindset of a person, and something that's not actually their own. That is one element of blind spots. The other blind spots are strategic ones, which is just experience, where I'm just like, sure, you could do it this way, which is 10 steps, or you could just do it that way, which is like 2 steps, So there's 2 ways, 2 points of blind spots.
That's how I look at it. I look at things very, I guess you could say, almost black and white that way, to where it's kind of like, why are you doing all of these things? I mean, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, it makes no sense. Like, if you're just going to this, it's just like that. Right.
But that's just
you just
experience, we've been in the game for a while. We know what is out there. We know the tools. We know the strategies. We know what works, what doesn't. And that's what people ultimately pay me for, to collapse time for them, to collapse money for them. And saying, you don't need this. All of these 10 softwares, you don't need them. You can just do it this way. And then the other is, that's also why I always call myself a consultant and a coach. Those are 2 very different things. Because I do both. I really do the strategy, and I do the coaching, the mindset as well, which I feel is, especially for beginners or people who are solopreneurs, is very, very important.
Okay. Well, hey, Christine, our time together has been awesome. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I've got to ask, great. I've got to ask you, how can people digitally stalk you? You got a couple things going on, books, all this, podcast. Tell us where they can find you, anywhere they dwell on the interwebs.
The hub is the easiest to find everything, is my website. And that is christinemeansbusiness.com.
Okay. So you do mean business, don't you? Literally.
It's what I love. It's what I breathe. Christine Means Business. And my book is called We Mean Business.
That's awesome. I love them both. Christine, hey, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story, your trip from Colombia, telling us about Luxembourg. We got to learn about Luxembourg today. Thank you so much for everything. It's been a blast. I hope you've had fun. Wow, such an incredible chat with Christine, right? As she said, Christine does indeed mean business. First, you all know the routine. If you found this interview helpful, if it sparked those warm and fuzzies, do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. But if you really want to help us out, because you know Shark Bite Biz is the greatest kept secret in the world of the small business growth, please share us out to your network wherever you dwell on the interwebs. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Minds, Getter, Rumble, YouTube. Doesn't matter. Wherever you're at, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share, give us a comment. Just help get the word out so that way these awesome core messages that people like Christine carry can get out to as many people as possible. So now let's get back to our rockstar guest, Christine, okay? She has an awesome story and even gave us a little bit of a geography lesson there in the process because of, being from Luxembourg. First person I've heard of Luxembourg, but the first person I've ever met or spoken to from the country. So it was pretty cool having her on there and just having her explain because of the fact that it is a little bit different than most countries are because of the size of it. Although it is probably larger than, definitely, well, like she said, it is larger than Vatican City, which most people kind of compare it to unfairly, but it's also larger from Liberland as well, too, which they have some awesome stuff going on right now. Getting Liberland built out into the metaverse to help spread the word of their country and their philosophy and their beliefs, kind of the democracy 2.0 as they put it. But anyways, I love unique people and unique stories, and Christine definitely fits both of those categories. What I found most amazing, though, about Christine, the fact that she kept building businesses and doing pretty good, by any standard you want to measure it by. And then once she built the business, got it running, got it profitable, discovers, I really don't like this, and ends up, selling or whatever she did with those businesses. And it's kind of funny because she did that multiple times. And that actually happens as adults, as we grow. So many adults go through this stage where they do have a career change. Look how many times we've had somebody that has changed career. It's something that our show kind of focuses on too, about career changes and how people found themselves working where they are. And oftentimes it's by happenstance or a change of heart, or they realized, I really am bored in this industry. I want to work in something else. And that's kind of what went on with Christine. But I think what also went on is that she kind of went through that process as far as I guess I'd put it as a self-discovery type process where, she probably took a step back at some point and realized, like, okay, I built a couple of businesses. After I built them, I realized I didn't like it, but I was passionate about it in the beginning. What's going on? And that's probably where she did the self-realization that she loves building businesses. She loves getting that initial, pump of energy going through that gives her the goosebumps all over when they're making their first sales. And that really is what her specialty is. So, she has that thrill of building, I think, businesses, not the maintaining of it. And that's really what led to her building a successful business today, realizing that she enjoys building things and helping others build things. So, hey, awesome stuff, Christine. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story and the mission that you're carrying out by helping other businesses scale and other people, helping people scale. I think that's an important thing I want to point out too. Please make sure you grab her book. Unfortunately, she is sending me a signed copy, as most our guests usually do. I don't have it on hand. It does take a little bit to travel from Luxembourg. But I will make sure I post on social media once I do get a copy of her book. Thank you in advance for that, Christine. Please make sure you check out her podcast, grab that book, and check out her website at christinemeansbusiness.com. Question of the day. Did you ever build a business just to find out you were bored with it? Leave a comment down below on YouTube, social media, Rumble, Odyssey, wherever you're watching this video at. I'd love to hear your story. Remember, do you want to be on the show? If so, get in the queue at interviews at sharkbitebiz.com. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Rumble, hit that little join button. For only $3 a month, you can become a baby shark and directly support this channel in its mission to help entrepreneurs, executives, young executives grow their businesses and grow their careers. If not, you can also support us directly by heading on over to deadhousecoffee.com. That's where you'll get the freshest coffee known on earth, coffee that is roasted, sealed, and shipped within a 24-hour period to your doorstep. Just make sure, use the code SHARK. You'll get 20% off your order. We'll get the proceeds to keep on doing what we're doing. You all know this by now, but I'm David Strausser. This is Shark Bite Biz. We'll see you all next episode. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Shark Bite Biz. We hope you got some insightful info from this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us through your favorite podcast app and visit us on the web at www.sharkbitebiz.com. How has business changed for you in the 20s? Email us at podcast@sharkbitebiz.com so you can join us and share your story.